Have you been wanting to purchase a home but have absolutely no idea where to start? Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Cara.fiano and I am a local realtor here in the Asheville area. For those of you that have been following my channel for a while, you've probably heard me talk about this, but for anyone that's new, I do have a free home buyer guide that I created, and I am more than happy to email that over to you. It is an 11-page document that breaks down the home buying process step by step, and at the end of the document there is a little form to fill out, really just for you. It might be helpful to fill out some of your wants and needs and really kind of narrow down what type of property you're looking for. So if you would like a copy of that, I'll leave my contact info here on the screen as well as in the description box down below. Feel free to reach out to me and I'm more than happy to send that over. Purchasing a home can feel like an overwhelming and very complicated task, especially if you are a first-time home buyer. What I tell everyone when they're first starting out is to write down a list of needs and wants. And I do think it's important to separate these two because, of course, no property is going to be absolutely perfect and give you everything that you want. So I think that it's good to realize what you must have right now and then some other ideals that maybe you can add into the property later if they don't currently have it, but there's maybe space to add whatever that item might be. An example of that would be maybe you're looking for a property with a really large deck on the back where you can fit a table and chairs and a grill and maybe a hot tub and really just have a really great entertainment space for family and friends and for yourself to just hang out and relax. So maybe that would be considered a want, not necessarily a must-have, because that's something that can relatively easily be added to a property if there's space for it. So I think that separating needs from wants is definitely crucial. And like I said earlier, in my home buyer guide, the last 2 pages are basically a template for you to figure out what your wants and needs are. To dive into this a little bit further, some things to consider would be how many bedrooms you're looking for, how many bathrooms, maybe a minimum square footage size, amount of acres. If you're looking to have maybe a little mini farm, you're probably going to want the land to be more flat and more usable versus something that's maybe steeper and wooded but might give you privacy. It's possible that you have a really unique set of needs. Maybe you have a family member that's going to be living with you and you want a second living area, which might be a walkout basement, or it could be a secondary structure. You could also be looking for a primary residence that also works as an income producing property. There are a lot of different factors to consider. So that's why I say your first step should be to write down your wants and needs so that you can really nail down exactly what you're looking for in a property. Once you've clearly defined what you're looking for in a property, your next step is going to be to choose a realtor. Now, if you are looking around the Asheville region, whether it is now or maybe sometime in the future, I would absolutely love to help you, so feel free to reach out to me at any point, and I would love to be the realtor for you. I think a lot of times when people are choosing a realtor, they don't necessarily know what sort of aspects they should be looking for or how to even go about finding a good one. People maybe just reach out to one and just say, I guess that person will work, or sometimes they might even go to the listing agent of the property. There are a few different tips I can give you to help with this process. One large one would be to definitely look at reviews. For example, if you type my name in on Google, you will see a ton of reviews on there. I also have reviews on the Century 21 website, Facebook, Zillow, Realtor.com. They're kind of scattered all over. But reading reviews really helps you see from a consumer's perspective how it is to work with that person. How good are they with communication? Are they a good negotiator? Do they have a lot of knowledge of that local area? There are a lot of different aspects here to consider, but another really important one is how you actually feel about working with that person. So if there's a realtor that you're considering using, give them a call, send them an email, send them a text, and see how the communication goes. See if you guys really are seeing eye to eye and you're on the same page. It really should feel a lot like a partnership and like you're working together towards the same goal. I want to quickly add in here a few really big benefits to using a realtor to help you purchase a property. Naturally, a realtor should be really tied into what the market conditions are in your area. So I know for me personally, I read the news pretty much every day when it comes to real estate. For those of you that are subscribed to my channel, you know I put out monthly housing market update videos where I keep you posted on what's happening with home prices, inventory, mortgages, local news, and just some other interesting news as well. So you're really going to want someone that has a lot of knowledge on what the current market conditions are, what they've been in the past, and what projections are into the future so that they can help you make some educated choices. Realtors will also know the ins and outs of the legal contracts and documents that you're going to be signing throughout the purchasing process. These can be very confusing if you've never seen them before, so having a realtor on your side to explain these documents to you and answer any questions can be very helpful. On top of that, realtors have a lot of connections within the community. They can recommend different mortgage lenders, inspectors, contractors, a lot of different people, so they're really someone that you want on your side. Like I said earlier, it really should feel like a partnership and like you are working together towards the same goal. Once you've chosen a realtor, your next step is going to be to get financing in place. Now, if you're going to be purchasing with cash, there's really not a whole lot you need to do. However, it is good to have a proof of funds document on hand. This could either be a bank statement, investment statement, a combination of the two, basically some sort of document with your name on it. You can black out account numbers and any sensitive information, but something that shows that you do have the money to purchase your future home. If you're looking to buy with cash, but that money is currently locked up in a home that you're planning to sell, I would look at a couple different options. One would be maybe a home equity loan if you're not looking to sell that property anytime soon, or if you are looking to sell that property before purchasing another one, I would talk to a realtor in your area and talk to them about what your home might actually sell for and how quickly it might sell. In the seller's market that we're currently in here in Asheville, it's not super common for sellers to accept contingent offers. However, if you do plan to make a contingent offer, one way you can make it look better is to have your home currently listed on the market, or even better, have it under agreement already with a set settlement date. If neither of these apply to you and you're looking to get financing for your next home, you're going to want to get pre-approved through a mortgage lender. Now, a pre-approval letter is not the same as a pre-qualification letter. A pre-qualification letter is very easy to get, and honestly, it doesn't hold a lot of weight in terms of offers. Pre-approvals are definitely the way to go. This is where a lender will look at your credit score, your tax forms, your incomes, your debts, and everything more in depth to really give you a clear picture of what you're going to be able to afford with a lot more certainty than they would with just a pre-qualification. It's really important to note here that working with a local mortgage broker is going to make the transaction so much smoother than working with a large national lender. I've had buyers use both types of lenders, and every time I've seen a buyer go with a large national 1-800 number type of lender, it has resulted in settlement delays and more money being charged to them than they would have seen using a local lender. Naturally, as the consumer, you absolutely have the choice to use whoever you would like to use. It's just my personal experience that I've seen over and over again. People end up saving more money and having a much smoother purchasing process by using a local lender. A lot of times they'll have much lower rates. Some don't even have loan origination charges. Interest rates will oftentimes be better. You'll have one point person that you'll be talking to, and the transaction will just go so much smoother. If you're looking for some local Asheville lenders, I'm happy to share some recommendations. Feel free to reach out to me and I can certainly share those with you. Pre-approval letters will usually last between 60 and 90 days. Even if you are not looking to purchase a home immediately, or maybe you're planning to just casually take your time, it's still a good idea to go through this process so that you can understand what your budget is and what your monthly payment is going to look like. You don't necessarily have to renew this every 60 or 90 days. It's really more just when you actually go under agreement on a property, or of course, if you've taken on any large debts or lost your job or even changed your job, then you would want to adjust as needed. Once you have your financing in place, the fun part begins. You get to go and look at some properties. During this time, your realtor will likely set you up with a home search through the MLS or multiple listing service. This is the place with the most accurate listing information. It's actually where websites like Zillow and Trulia, Realtor.com, where those websites pull their information from. However, a lot of times when they pull information, something gets messed up and information ends up being incorrect on a lot of those sites. Whenever you see a property that you really love and you want to take a tour of, you can reach out to your realtor and they can set up a showing to go and privately tour that with you. It's important to note here that your realtor will be able to show you any property that you're qualified to see as long as it falls within their work radius. So for me personally, my work radius is roughly 25 to 30 miles around Asheville. I sometimes will go outside of that a little bit. So pretty much that puts me down to the Hendersonville area to the south, west to Waynesville, north to the Tennessee border, and east to roughly Marion. Your realtor does not need to be the listing agent to show you a home. They will be able to show you any property that is currently on the market. After you've identified a property that you really like, it's important to figure out as much as you can about that property before you go under agreement. In North Carolina, we are a buyer beware state, which basically means it's up to the buyer to figure out any issues that are wrong with the property. And this is another benefit of using a realtor, is that they have been in a lot of different properties. They've done a lot of different transactions, typically, at least if you're using an experienced agent, and they'll be able to tell you what different things you should be looking for and point out some items that maybe are going to cost you a lot of money and could be something to consider when making the offer. Now, I do want to make the distinction here that a realtor is not an inspector. So we can't go in and say you have structural problems, you have water intrusion in your crawl space, you have a leaking roof, or anything like that, old electrical, things like that. Inspectors will certainly be able to tell you what deficiencies there are with the property, and contractors will be able to provide you with quotes so that you can negotiate with the seller. Seeing as Asheville is a mountainous and rainy region, something that I personally look for when touring homes with my buyers is any sort of settling with the foundation and any sort of moisture intrusion coming into the basement. Now, I am certainly not qualified to say that there definitely are structural problems or that there are not structural problems, and same thing with moisture intrusion. However, like I said, if there's something that looks a little bit off or unusual, I will certainly mention that to my buyers, and a lot of times I will go to the listing agent and say, hey, I noticed this during our showing. Does the seller have any more information on this? Have they had this looked at by a contractor? And that really helps us to make informed decisions when placing the offer. So when placing an offer, there are so many different items to consider. Everything from purchase price, due diligence amount, earnest money, due diligence period, settlement date, which attorney you're going to use, what inspections you're going to get. There are a lot of different aspects to consider, and every state is going to have different contracts. So if you've purchased a home in Florida, your contracts are actually quite different than they are here in North Carolina. In Florida, as far as I'm aware, they don't have a due diligence deposit. They only have one type of deposit. Whereas here in North Carolina, due diligence is something that's non-refundable and goes to the sellers. And then we also have earnest money on top of that. So there's a lot of different nuances and differences. So just because you've purchased a property in another state doesn't necessarily mean that you know the contracts here in North Carolina. On top of that, the contracts are changing every year also. Every year on July 1st, there are updates that are made. I know this year the property disclosure documents here in North Carolina are going to be changing quite drastically, actually. I'm not going to go too in depth in this video about writing an offer. However, I did film a video, I think a couple years ago at this point, about some tips for writing a good offer. If you didn't see that video, I'll link it up here. And of course, if we end up working together, I'll work with you and share all the specifics about how to write a good offer and my recommendations and everything like that in order to get your offer accepted, even in a competitive market. Once your offer is written up, you've signed it, your realtor has submitted it to the listing agent, now is the waiting game to see if the seller is going to accept your offer, reject your offer, or counter your offer. A lot of times people will ask me what the time frame is for this, and it's totally different depending on the seller, the listing agent, market conditions. A lot of times if a home has just come on the market, let's say on a Friday, typically a seller is going to want to wait through the weekend, through, Sunday night, maybe Monday, to wait and see what other offers they're going to get before responding to yours. But let's say the property has been sitting on the market for a month or so and you place an offer. It's relatively common to hear back within 24 hours. 48 hours is also pretty common too, but past that, I would say it starts to get a little abnormal. So let's say the seller accepts your offer and you are officially under agreement on your dream property. Now what? Well, there's a lot of next steps to this too. The first step is going to be to send the seller that due diligence check. This is due at the time the seller signs the contract, but in practice, it's understood that it might take 24 hours or even 48 hours to get there if you are living out of state and you have to overnight that check. That's going to be your first step, sending due diligence. The second is going to be to send an earnest money check to your attorneys that you've chosen. The third step will be to schedule your inspections. I'll give you a couple examples of some inspections that I frequently recommend. The main one is going to be your general home inspection. Wood destroying insect inspection is not a bad one to do as well. Radon tests are also pretty common too. If a property has a well and a septic on site, I would also recommend getting a well inspection, septic pump and inspection, and also a water quality test. If you're looking at purchasing raw land or maybe a really rural property that's not in a classic subdivision, you might also want to look into getting a survey. However, those can take multiple weeks, if not months, to get done. So if a survey isn't like a make it or break it deal for you, I'd probably just say, wait until after closing if you want to get a survey. Once you've mailed out your due diligence and earnest money checks and scheduled your inspections, you're then going to be working very closely with your lender, if you are going the loan route, to get them all the documents that they need to ultimately finalize the loan. Your realtor will be doing a lot of behind the scenes work as well, one of which will be notifying your attorneys that you are under agreement so that they can start doing their title search. When it comes to inspection day, I always recommend going to the inspections, especially the general home inspection, if you are local and if you are able to. Whether you are or aren't able to go, I personally do attend every inspection that I'm able to. I'll meet the inspector there on the property, walk around with them, and talk about any issues that inspector may have found. You'll also get a very lengthy and detailed report from the inspector, typically within 24 to 48 hours after the inspection, that will detail out everything that they found with your property, any issues that they found, and recommendations that they have as well. At that point, after you've reviewed the report and come up with a list of items that are most important to you, it's a good idea to get some quotes to see how much repairs might be. There are a few different ways to go through negotiations during the inspection process. You can ask the sellers to drop their purchase price, you can have them provide money towards closing costs, or you can have them actually repair certain items before settlement and provide receipts to you for those repairs. During this process as well, your lender is going to be working with you to schedule the appraisal. Now, if there are appraisal issues, it'll be a very similar type of negotiation as with the inspections, and oftentimes it's done at the same time. So if your home doesn't appraise for what you're under agreement for, you can go back to the seller and say you want a reduction in purchase price, or maybe you split the difference and part of it you pay in cash out of pocket and the other part the seller ends up taking off the purchase price. Once all of this negotiation is done and the attorneys have finished their title search, now it is time to get to closing. Typically, a day or two before closing, you'll want to do a final walkthrough on the property to make sure that everything looks as it should before you hand over the money. On settlement day itself, you can expect closing to take anywhere from maybe 30 minutes to roughly an hour. Here in North Carolina, you don't actually get the keys to your property until the deed is officially recorded. The sellers will typically sign their documents a few days before your closing, and then once you've signed everything, the attorneys will send over the documents to the courthouse for recording, which typically will happen within an hour or two after you've signed, and then you will officially have the keys to your new property and you can move in. Now, I know I just threw so much information at you guys and your head is probably spinning at this point if you are totally new to this process. You might have some questions, so if you do, leave them in the comments box down below and I will do my best to answer all of your questions. I'll also leave my contact info here on the screen. Reach out to me anytime. I am more than happy to help you understand the home buying process and send you a copy of that free homebuyer guide I was mentioning earlier. And like I said earlier, if you are looking to purchase property around the Asheville region, I would absolutely love to be your realtor. Well, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, definitely hit that like button down below. Subscribe if you are not already, if you want to see more videos about what it's like to live in Asheville and the local real estate market. All right, everyone, I'll see you very soon in the next one.